Thank you for calling Bristol Community.
The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
And it is Monday in the Riv, the beginning of a new week in Gotham City.
I wouldn't even call Gotham City. That's an insult to Gotham City.
That's right. I guess we had no shootings or stabbings over the weekend.
Which
was good.
Right,
We did have that fiasco in New York City, which
Right.
shows the condition of our society, where you get a 61-year-old bodega owner who goes to work at noon and works till 3 in the morning every morning, trying to make a living, getting assaulted by a career criminal, gangbanger, drug dealer, gets stabbed by his girlfriend. This guy's trying to kill him over a bag of chips, and he defends himself. And what do? They handcuff him, throw him in Rikers Island, and charge him with second-degree murder. That Alvin Bragg, that wokey DA who lets all the criminals go.
Right.
The criminals walked in and shot him in the head. He'd let him walk on personal recognizance. So I guess this may be the tipping point. They're talking about it. This may be the end. It's all over the country. This kind of stuff is doing. They're letting criminals go, and then when somebody that's a law-abiding citizen, and they got videotaping it.
Right.
The guy tried to escape. He did everything because there's no stand your ground law in New York State. You know, you have a castle doctrine where you can say, well, if you're gonna, if they come into your house and try to kill you, but this is his business. But this guy did everything he could to try to avoid it. He told the guy, I don't want any trouble and blah, blah, blah. The girlfriend stabbed him. They got video of everything. And the guy's assaulted him. The guy's a career criminal, doesn't have a job. He's got a $3,000 T-shirt on. I don't know how you can even have a $3,000 T-shirt.
I don't know who'd buy a $3,000.
Well, again, apparently some guy that doesn't have a job, but it's a criminal. So I guess criminality in New York City pays well, as it does in most of these other cities. But I think the country has reached a tipping point. We're seeing what's happening in a lot of these elections, and they got rid of Chesa Bodine up in San Francisco. They're going to be getting rid of they're going to be getting rid of Gascon in L.A. And this guy, who knows what's going to happen with this bird? I guess the governor has the right to fire him, but this governor they got Hochul. She's a real Hochul. She wasn't elected. She took over when Cuomo left, and she's a pinhead. She wants guns away from law-abiding citizens because she doesn't want anybody carrying a gun except criminals.
Right.
So, but I mean, this is the society we live in, and propaganda reigns. I saw, since I'm on that, I saw the propaganda mill going again, and two things. Isn't it nice how the mainstream media is yelling, the gas is going down, the gas is going down. Yeah, that's the old con. Raise the gas to $5 or $6, get it down to $4.50, and everybody's happy. You forgot that it was $2.
Right.
And before, it's double the price what it used to be, but they're trying. The midterms are coming, so they're going to lie to you, see if everybody's stupid enough. Well, it went down 3 cents this week. Well, it went up $2.50 in the last year.
Right.
So don't give us that crap. But now back to the Fall River, I guess. So.
Well, I mean, there were two interesting articles in the Fall River Rag.
Fall River birdcage liner.
The birdcage liner. One was about the streets.
The streets.
Yeah, I was talking with our producer about that beforehand, and how they plan out these street repairs.
Yeah.
Now, any street that is being worked on by Liberty Utilities or any of the utility companies that they're tearing up the street, they do not work on those streets. Those are excluded. The reason why they're excluded is those utility companies have to repair what they damaged or what they opened up. So they're the ones that have to do it. So that makes sense in a financial part, and the fact that the company tore it up, they should fix it. Mm-hmm. Now, the mayor's got about $3 million of Chapter 90 money, which is for street repairs. Last year, they said they repaired a lot of main thoroughfares. This year, they're going to work on a lot of smaller streets because they need repairs too. That's a good idea. I don't have a problem. I mean, I've seen New Boston Road. Have you seen New Boston Road? They've put a top coat on it. Looks nice. But the side streets that come off of New Boston Road
Or a disaster.
a disaster. So you're on a nice smooth street, and then all of a sudden you're in Fallujah. So maybe the plan to fix the smaller streets makes more sense. And then, of course, he had always said he'd use ARPA money for it.
Yeah.
Well, the way he's using ARPA money for it is by including it in the water repairs, the water main replacements. $8.3 million or whatever that amount of money was.
Should have been 15.
It should have been 15 or 20, exactly.
As Michelle said.
Right. But it's $8 million plus or minus. And that will then repair those streets because they tore up the street, took out the water main, put the new water main in. So he's leveraging the money, but there are other places we can use the money. We haven't even used all of our ARPA funds. And every time I hear about ARPA funds going somewhere, and I listen to what other cities and communities are doing, and they're leveraging the money with private enterprise to better the city, and they're getting something out of it. I mean, look at New Bedford. They created affordable housing by partnering with a private developer.
You can't say affordable housing. You have to have a code word for it because we can't say that in Fall River. Because remember, public housing is affordable housing. He doesn't realize that it's not.
Right.
You know, people who can't make rent in a privately owned building are not in public housing.
That's right.
So but yet our boy can't understand that.
Right.
It's too difficult for his gray matter, what little he has to absorb. It's difficult.
Well, you know, maybe what I should do is get the law which describes what public housing is.
They don't care about the law.
I
Come
know.
on, you
I
know
know.
that. But you know, you're talking about the streets, and look, I agree. And I came in at the tail end of that conversation, and our producer was right. It's better if they do it because when the government does anything, they screw it up.
Right.
So, but you might have to wait a while. But as long as the street is passable, okay. But you know the problem I have exactly when you basically what you just said makes sense. Saves money for the city. But you see what my problem is when we look at the end result of that, we've saved money for what? To reduce the tax rates? To help the tax? No. It's to get more jobs, give more pay raises out, and blow money for his rich friends.
Right.
That's the problem. The problem is you're doing some. They want to save. They don't want to spend any city money except on themselves and their friends. That's the problem. The problem is we're going to save money on the streets. Where's that money going to go? It's going to go to do what? We got structural deficits in the budget. We're not addressing these things. We're going to put 29 people on, and we're going to pay them with opera money. But then when the opera money's gone, we're going to be paying their salaries, their health care, their retirement benefits, and everything forever. So nobody cares the long-range impact because all these politicians who are elected for a time certain are going to be gone.
Right.
And they're not going to be living in Fall River
Exactly.
anymore. And this is the problem. The problem is what you said makes sense. What doesn't make sense to me is the end result. If you save money, but then blow it on something that doesn't really benefit anybody long term, it's useless. Good idea with a bad end result. Because all you're doing is giving them more money to spend the wrong way.
It happens. It happens. And I mean,
It always happens. That's the
you know, and every politician, I don't care who it is, turns around and says, "But I saved $5 million on street repairs, and I saved $8 million." But where is it coming off my taxes? Where am I saving the money? I am saving the money. Because remember, the city is me. The city is you. Mm-hmm. The city is you. Where are we saving the money? We're not seeing it. And as you said, with 29 new positions, in 2 years, that creates another structural deficit that we got to pay for. How are we going to pay for it? Paul probably won't be here, so he won't care. And the cabal's big problem is who would replace him? Because if whoever replaces him doesn't play the game that they're playing, they're screwed.
Yeah.
And what happens is if somebody came in, and I really hope that somebody does come forward that says, okay, this is it. And who turns around and did like Cranston did. We're cutting our budget by 12%. That's it, 12%. We're cutting it. I don't want to lay people off, but we have to. Government is too big. Fall River's the same thing. Fall River needs to cut their budget by 12%. And I still think they can cut more than that.
Oh, absolutely. But look, the reality is it started. Bob Carrere, when he got in, cut. He was on the right track. They didn't like him, and they threw all the weight and all their money to try to get him out.
Exactly.
And that's the problem. The problem is that these people influence, because people, you need a tipping point. Like the tipping point with this bodega owner, tipping point with crime running rampant in all the cities, in the major cities in the United States. We're seeing a swing back of the pendulum. These tax bills and this inflation, people can't, the average person in Fall River cannot make ends meet. I heard somebody this morning on TV talking about, look, the gas price went down a little bit, but still, you got people who drive 100 miles round trip to go to work, and they're spending $100 a day or more to go back and forth to work.
Right.
That's $700. I mean, these people are dying, and there's no attempt at all. And then the propaganda that the gas is going down. It's still double what it was. Nobody cares. It's still too much. There's no affordable housing. We've got the rest of the country dealing with affordable housing, but our mayor wants to mix this propaganda. We can't have 14% of the people determining who we have as mayor, and I think the next election we're going to see a good turnout. This November and the next November, hopefully, especially next November, because look, people are just they can't do it. And affordable housing means private sector housing, Paul. I hate to tell you this, but it is.
He knows that.
Well,
he knows that because he turned around and he said in one of his interviews that, we've got a project downtown that's got several affordable housing units in it.
3?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. What is it, 3 or 4? Just like on Alden Street on that senior complex, they had 3 apartments available, and over 400 people came to be part of the lottery. Yeah. That's how necessary affordable housing is. That's how necessary it is.
Well, it's more than necessary. It's mandatory in this city, because the reality is the affordable housing units should not be a minuscule portion of everything that's being built in this city now. Because if you look at our demographic, maybe if you were building market rate housing in Newton, you could have 90% or 80% or even 97% of it be market rate, because they're making $165,000 a year, not 43. You look at Fall River, where you're going to need an income of about $85,000 to $100,000 to pay the market rate rents. There's virtually nobody in the city of Fall River that should get it. It shouldn't be several units.
But
it should be the majority of units. This city has the socioeconomic level is one of the lowest in the state. We should have a major part of this. All construction should be affordable housing.
I agree, but Paul's position is, I'm looking at all these people coming into Fall River, Oregon, New York, Connecticut, all these license plates, which, by the way, Paul, after 30 days, they have to be registered in Massachusetts. If not, it's illegal. And you and your police force aren't doing anything about that either. But he thinks that that's going to change Fall River's appearance.
Well, he's an idiot.
He thinks, they're going to, when he ever said they're going to spend money locally, they're going to spend money at the small business, they're going to spend money at our restaurants, they're going to buy tires. They're going to buy tires?
Oh, yeah, like they can't buy tires anyway. Look, that's absurd. Listen, all those out-of-state plates, number one, look, market rate housing has never worked in this city. We saw it with Riverview Towers. We saw it with it's not going to do it. These people don't stay in Fall River. Because you know something? They con you. Half of these out-of-state plates, we don't even know what they're doing here. They
Right.
may be drug dealers. They may be construction guys working on projects down here that are renting a unit because it's cheaper than renting a motel room.
That's right.
Because remember when they did it across the bridge? They had every motel in Somerset and Swansea was filled up with non-union people coming down here to work on projects.
Right.
But you never thought of that, did you, Paul? You never thought of that, because you're not going to try to find out where all those people are. And if they're really living here, why don't they have Massachusetts plates? You just basically revealed a real secret. We don't know. And it's not going to work. Because it is a ridiculous assumption. It is a lunatic assumption to think that people that can afford this kind of rent will live in this city. And I'm not being disparaging, I'm being realistic. We have virtually no restaurants, no entertainment, a failing school system, #1 in crime, in the top 50 in the United States at one time in drugs. You really believe they're gonna move to Fall River at a market rate housing where they have to get in their car and drive to Providence to get to a restaurant, or go to Boston to go to a restaurant and have entertainment? They want to go to P-PAC. These people live in a different world. To them, going out for a Portuguese steak is not a night out.
No, it's not.
For these people, they want to go to plays. They want to go to. They need high-end entertainment. They have a different lifestyle. People in Fall River are on a draft beer budget. These people are on a champagne budget. Do you truly, listen, this con has been run on Fall River for 50 years. It didn't work with Point Gloria. It didn't work with Riverview Towers before that. It will not work in Fall River.
It was just like the condo. Remember the condo
Yeah.
boom in Fall
Yeah,
River?
the condo
We had a
boom.
huge condo boom, and everyone bought them up, and they rented them.
Yep.
Why do you want to buy an apartment and rent it?
Yeah.
Okay, buy the building.
Yeah.
Okay, I saw a couple of triple deckers on Plymouth Avenue that were converted into condos.
Yeah.
That were converted into condos. So now they're renting them out, and they're condos. And what are they getting? Probably Section 8 or something else, which is public housing. So I don't know. We've seen it so many times at Fall River that it's just become part of nature.
The cabal is making money, and he's
Of
the
course.
puppet of the cabal.
Right.
That's the key. Listen, has everybody forgotten that the guy who's in charge of all this development, that's making all the money, that is like a giant octopus and has 20 different jobs now? He's in charge of this, he's in charge of the opera, he's in charge of that. He's in charge of everything. Do you remember when they took all this government trough away from him, when they pulled the trough out from under him?
It was just about a
He
bankruptcy.
was in bankruptcy.
Yep.
That's how effective he is.
Right.
Yet he has been in fundamental control of redevelopment for Fall River for 30 or 40 years.
Right.
And how much has Fall River developed? Is that the guy you really want in charge? You know this is about a bunch of people who were all in a cabal making money. This isn't about improving Fall River, because the Derby horses didn't improve Fall River, the Battleship didn't improve Fall River, you know, the HMS Bounty didn't improve it, the waterfront won't improve it, because people are not going to live on the waterfront in like tents. And the reality is, look at who's running the show. If he was that effective, he would have been able to make a pretty damn good living, not when he was involved with the public-private partnership, but he wasn't. He was on the verge of bankruptcy, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yep, on the verge of bankruptcy. We saw the lettuce.
Yep.
On the verge of bankruptcy. All of a sudden, he comes sliding back in, and now he's the Oracle at Delphi.
That was Paul. Paul brought him back.
The Oracle, well, he brought back everybody.
He did.
The people that put him in, the old guard.
Right.
All the way back to the Carlton Viveris
Exactly.
era. All the way
Exactly.
back to the Viveris Lambert era.
Right.
That's what came back with Paul. Paul dragged them all back in. And it's, you know, it's like the Godfather. I tried to get out, and they pulled me back in. They pulled me. Well, they pulled him back in to save him from bankruptcy, and now he's making a boatload of money. And is he effective? Let history speak for itself. Has Fall River improved over the last 40 years, or is it deteriorated? Most people would say it's deteriorated.
Well, you know what's interesting, because I had a conversation with Mike Dion from CDA at one point in time, and I said, how can he keep getting this economic development money from CDA if we don't have new jobs? You ready for how the federal government decides if he's effective or not?
Yeah.
They put a number. 50 jobs must be provided for this year. Okay. As long as he creates 50 jobs, he's covered. Doesn't matter if he lost 2,000, like when we lost the mills and Quaker Fabric and everything. No, he made the 50 jobs, so he keeps getting the money. He's effective.
Yep,
that's how they create
That's the
effectiveness.
federal government.
Right.
The federal government is ineffective. If you want something screwed up, there's no accountability. That's the way government operates. Are we accountable? They're still spending our money to pick up trash in violation of the ordinance of business trash. They're incompetent. They ignore the law. They get away with stuff. They don't get prosecuted for things that they do. And that's the problem. That's why you've got to do what Samuel Clemens said. Change them like diapers.
That's it.
Often, for the same reason.
Now that you mentioned illegal activities, that new Veterans Advisory Council he created,
Oh, they love councils.
They love it.
Committees.
Yeah. And they gave him $100,000.
Oh, yeah. Of course.
Okay. That went to various agencies that help veterans. Okay. Not a problem. I'm not going to argue with that. But the appointment of those people may be in violation of the city charter. Because the city charter says you can only have one job in the city, whether that be on a board, commission. I mean, granted, Hatzler took us to court, but that was an elected position, not an appointed position. And that's why he was able to hold it. And they said it. He was elected by the people, therefore, that's why he can hold it. Paul's not going to use that excuse. Corporate counsel can't use that excuse. So, what I would like to see happen is have this advisory committee looked at, have every board and commission in the city looked at, and find out who's holding more than one position. I can name off a few people right off the top of my head. And have them select which one they want to be on and remove them from the rest. That's what needs to happen. Remember, Paul, you said, I always follow the law. I follow the charter. I follow the ordinances. Well, follow the charter. There it is. It's time for you to do your job.
Well, they better keep his fingers crossed that we don't get enough money to take them to court on the real ordinances, because they're costing us millions of dollars on the, picking up people's business trash, mixing yard waste with that, where we got to pay over $100 a ton rather than a minuscule amount for the yard waste.
And leaving my trash on my corner.
And the man who always follows the ordinances and said, if I ever do anything illegal, I'll resign. He should have resigned a long time ago. Because he's doing something illegal as we speak. His budget was illegal. His own city administrator said they are paying outside they paid outside the ordinance. He has done all kinds of illegal things, and he doesn't care about the law because they are above the law, like Pelosi's above the law, like all politicians are above the law. Hunter Biden's above the law, and he's not even an elected official. He's just the son of the president. He lied on a gun application, threw away a loaded gun in a barrel. If you or I or any general citizen, a law-abiding citizen like that bodega owner who's trying to protect his own life did that, they'd be handcuffed, thrown in jail. You'd lose your gun license. Nothing. If you get flagged by a bank, the FBI will be in your driveway in an hour and a half. Hunter Biden and Joe Biden's brother had 350 flags. They were reported 350 times for suspect money transactions by banks.
Money laundering.
But nothing.
Right.
Nothing. So don't think there's not a double standard. These people think they're above the law. And Puppet Paul, that's his new name. I just came up with that one. Puppet Paul.
We're giving him all kinds of nicknames.
Yeah, Puppet. I got to keep a list because I forget already. Because Puppet Paul, Paul the Puppet Paul, doesn't care.
Right.
He just does what he's told and plans another movie or a parade. And I know he's got his minions calling, oh, he's doing a wonderful job, he's doing a beautiful, really? No affordable housing, not public housing. People, and when he got that, and I was thinking of something. Why don't these other communities pull their weight with public housing? Well, that's a completely different issue. And I may agree with that point. But why don't these other communities, as we've been saying for a very long time, pull their weight with drug treatment centers?
Right.
Why is Fall River the major housing unit for drug addicts in the state of Massachusetts? No, you don't see the Cape with one, even though there's a massive drug problem in the Cape. They even did an HBO special on it.
That's right.
The fact is, why isn't there a drug rehab facility planted right in between Natick, Newton, and Wellesley? Why? Because rich people don't have that in their backyards. NIMBY, not in my backyard.
Right.
Send it down to between the Cheeks, New Bedford, and Fall River. Send all the refuse down there. Send all the drug addicts from the Cape, from Newton, from Wellesley, from everywhere to Fall River. Paul, why aren't you saying that? Why aren't you telling our state reps? Why don't we all share they all share the wealth with the lottery? The Newtons and the Wellesleys get their cut, even though none of them play the lottery. They don't need the money. But they get a disproportionate share of the lottery, but you don't care because Paul the puppet just does what he's told and doesn't do anything of consequence. Have a press conference on what you're going to do about that. Have a press conference about what you're really going to do about affordable housing. Have a press conference on something with content, but you never will.
No, and he goes to these events and he makes it sound good with his diversions, and he's a master of diversion.
Oh yeah,
a master.
He's the deflector in chief.
Yeah,
that's another one.
Yeah, and it's sad that that's what we have. And again, when you got 14% of the population,
you get an incompetent, ineffective leader.
Right, and you get somebody who's controlled by somebody else.
Yep. And he's the vice mayor.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can all guess who the mayor is, but there's a few people for that. But he is the vice mayor.
Right, and I mean it makes me laugh. What we need to do, and I'm going to try to do it for the next show, is I'm going to bring a copy of the law that says what public housing is. I know, the law. And just so we can make it very clear so Paul knows what the law is on public housing. Because the law does say that other communities are supposed to be bringing in their fair share of at least 10%. I don't see Newton doing it.
Yeah.
I don't see Wellesley doing it.
I don't see his pal Auchincloss wanting that up in Newton.
That's right. So I don't see Somerset Swansea doing it either. Okay, they got about 3%. So it's time that our state legislature, it's time that our House and Senate start enforcing the law that they put into effect. Because they put it into effect. They put it into effect because they didn't want discrimination on low-income housing. They put it into effect, and then they never enforced it. It looked good. It looked good. It was great for probably election season. But you can't be doing things that way. You've got to give people the right to have the laws enforced, because if you're going to enforce it on me, I want it enforced on them. It just makes it simple.
The law for you, not for me.
That's right. Exactly. Well, everyone, I want to thank you all for watching. As usual, it's our great pleasure to be with you and to be invited into your home. Remember, stay safe, stay angry, and hold your politicians accountable. We'll see you on Wednesday.